how should the council manage the impact of late night entertainment uses? There's two examples here. One's the continued use of planning conditions. Excuse me, but if you have any suggestions about where you feel planning conditions haven't adequately addressed a situation. The second one is about adopting the use of premises management plans. That is perhaps what was being talked about, whether or not people feel there would be any value in those as part of the planning application process. Are there any views on that?
Yes.
Keith Hearn, C.B. Richard Ellis, planning consultant. Yes, I think this question of premises management plans is clearly one that's applicable throughout the topic that we're discussing tonight, and I think the application of, or the requirement for such plans being submitted with planning applications is a very good one, particularly because in terms of the first part of this question, I think planning conditions as the means by which the actual operation of entertainment uses can be managed are clearly very blunt instruments. And at the end of the day, what does or does not happen on the street is very much a reflection of the quality of the management.
Have you come across the use of such plans in other local authorities, and have they been effective?
Given that 90% of my work is within Westminster, I have very little experience outside, so okay. I'll have to pass on that one.
I just wonder whether it's another level of bureaucracy when we do have stringent planning conditions and licence conditions as is.
Well, I was actually just going to ask what a premises management plan is, and is it something different from the conditions of our entertainment licences?
Well, when a licensing application is made, there should be such a plan. Very often, that is only discerned actually at the hearing or very shortly before it, and we don't, as an authority, reject applications because their operating schedule, as it's called, isn't fully laid out. By the time they come before a hearing or they get a grant of licence, that is. But that is then translated into a set of conditions which are enforceable. So you can say, well, it's complied with or not, rather than as a cogent plan. The other feature which applies with the licensing regime we have at the moment is that what you license is the premises, not the people who run the premises. Previous regime, the two went together, so that when an operating schedule comes in, it is translated into a set of conditions which tend to be with an eye to what would happen if an unscrupulous operator took over a premises. That is the way that it tends to work. So in theory you have an operating schedule, but in fact to actually get this plan, which is really informative about what the place is like, and then be able to actually make it work that way, is pretty difficult at the moment.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm still under... I mean, bearing in mind the fairly new licensing regulations and the fact that within our licence requirements we provide quite a lot of information, I'm not sure I still understand what this new management plan will be.
I'll be happy to just add some further clarification. Obviously, anyone in the room who wants to correct me if I'm wrong, then feel free to. I mean, I do think premises management plans are slightly more stringent, or potentially so, than, say, planning conditions, because they revolve a lot more about the actual ongoing management of the premises, rather than just purely in terms of things like opening hours or the shutting of windows. I think it goes a bit further than that, and it's something that the person running the establishment would have to sign up to. So I think it is more stringent, but obviously I'm happy to take any views to the contrary.
They may occur when there are non-licensable activities there, so it may complement a licence as well, which is only for licensable activity. The management plan could affect non-licensable activity. Yes, at the back, and then Mr. Woodham. Sorry, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Virgo. I'm Paddington Waterways, but I happen to be a Safer Neighbourhood chair. My team, the Safer Neighbourhood team, spend much more time actually policing things outside the pub, mainly because the operators inside don't find it possible, or tell us they don't find it possible, to come outside and see what is going on in the residential streets. We know that the licensing inspectors do their bit too. But there is a real problem about this because, for instance, the Safer Neighbourhood team really doesn't work late at night at around 11 or 12 because the shift pattern does not work out that way. And I think this is going to be an increasing problem.
I would just like to pick up on what Councillor Astaire said, that I think that if you were going to use premises management plans, you should probably do that for premises which are not licensed under the Licensing Act, because there's very clear guidance that there should not be duplication, and either, it seems to me, one might run the risk... yeah, well... Great, thank you. But either, it seems to me, that this policy might be struck down at the examination in public, or else you run the risk that it becomes unenforceable because, as people say, you've got conditions under the Licensing Act. I suppose it might be useful if it was a non-licensed premises providing some form of entertainment, but that's a contradiction in terms. So personally, I don't think it's a particularly much of a runner.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Woodham, did you want? Yep.
I'd just like to comment on both the last speakers. In St James, we have 3 public houses that cause problems with vertical drinking. And one of my observations is that the transition or the link between planning and licensing doesn't always seem to be very clear. Normally, we get concerned with the annual table and chairs applications for these public houses, and we always write a letter that seems probably to the planning authorities to be more akin to licensing than to the planning. And yet we still feel that when these applications for tables and chairs come up, it is our duty to explain that you've got vertical drinking spreading right across the footways onto the vehicle highway, and this seems to be an ideal opportunity once a year to remark on this, that it's causing obstruction to the pedestrians and also danger to the people themselves going onto the highway. I'm not clear whether the planning have anything to do with such problems at all, and it should be left entirely to the licensing. We were invited in the last time we did this to submit an application for a review of a particular premises. Now, it seems to me that we have, we're a one-man band doing this. You'd think that the City Council would take this off our necks and get on with it, because there's clearly a problem. It's been quite well outlined by the Ritz Hotel in one particular instance. And I'm still not sure who has priority. Is it planning or licensing?
Perhaps Louise or...
Well, the tables and chairs applications are, the planning precedes the street trading licence that it requires. On the principles it is not acceptable in planning terms, the details of the street trading licence are irrelevant. But the actual drinking on the streets and the causing of public nuisance and indeed issues of public safety fall squarely within the responsibility of the licensing regime. The route to addressing those problems is firstly informed enforcement and encouragement, but that is backed up by with the possibility of a review, and then a number of options are open to the authority, limiting, for instance, sometimes installing tables and chairs or letting people have tables and chairs so as to reduce the amount of vertical drinking. But the ultimate sanction is actually the not allowing off sales to remove alcohol from inside the premises at all or after a certain hour. Obviously, there are a lot of premises with these sorts of problems, and the City Council's efforts are directed at those which seem to it, from what it gathers from its own inspections and what feedback it gets from residents and others, that it should be concentrating on. But I think it's clearly the review of the license is the way